Right then, Avengers Infinity War, the culmination of 10 years of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This will be my non-spoiler segment of the review, and then I will get into a spoiler-filled section as well. So, first things first, it is the culmination of 10 years. Was it worth it? Truthfully, I could probably say no, actually. I didn't hate the movie at all. And I don't think that it's not without its merit, but for 10 years worth, and the culmination of all of that, it did feel quite lackluster, unfortunately. It's definitely worth going out to see, so I always kind of start my reviews with whether it's actually worth paying to go and watch the movie. And I can say that it's worth going to see if you've seen a few of the movies. So if you've seen like Avengers, Age of Ultron, and some of the more recent ones, it's definitely worth going to see purely just for the spectacle. But it did feel quite lackluster, and I will mention why. It's not so much the fact that it's not a good movie, or that the narrative and structure is so bad. I think it's so lackluster because it's been built up so much, and it just isn't what it's been made out to be. This storyline is really difficult to adapt in some degree, but also it's difficult to adapt within the time frame which they're allowed. And it's a long movie. It's a really, really long movie, but some of the pacing was just such a struggle to get through. What I will say is that they do a really good job, the Russo brothers do a really good job of juggling between character sets and giving enough people enough screen time. That was something which was fantastic. And overall, it is alright, but it is so lackluster by comparison to what it was, or what it should have been, and what it was made out to be. This is the culmination of 10 years of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's everything. And some of it is unforgivably bad by their standards, but also by the standards which you'd think that they would allow themselves for this particular movie. So what is so bad and what is so good? I'll start off with the good. Thor is absolutely amazing in this film. He's so good. I love Thor in this film. Probably the best character outside of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Those two characters were amazing. The quips and the one-liners between characters which are new to interacting, again non-spoilers here, were great. That was really good fun, and it was great to see characters interacting which you wouldn't normally see or you haven't seen before. That was fantastic. The overall grandeur of what they're trying to tell was good. The motivations behind Thanos were both good and bad, and also his relatability was good, but going back to his motivations, it falls under the bad as well. In terms of Marvel and sticking to their average tropes, they didn't really stick to their average tropes. It was good, actually. They did throw a lot of the Marvel cinematic tropes to one side I'd assume in an effort to try and surprise people and really, crank up the risk and desperation involved in this movie. And they did that very well. That was good. The effects were not so good. Thanos is a massive dude. He's absolutely huge. But in certain shots, the scale changes quite a lot, and it's very difficult to gauge whether it's an effects issue and they've just resized him here and there. When he grabs hold of certain people, that does look very bad. And again, this is non-spoilers. Obviously, Thanos is going to interact with live-action characters. And when he's grabbing real-life people, if you focus on his hands and the blending between real life and CG, it's quite bad, actually. It's not very good at all. It is quite jarring. Even down to some of the effects on Iron Man and the Iron Patriot, Rhodey's character, they were not very good. Some of them were quite off-putting, in fact. And like I say, some of that is quite unforgivable. And as well, there's a certain shot which, once you watch this movie, you'll see, where Banner and the effects with regards to Banner is not very good at all. And in terms of Thanos, his motivations and kind of backstory are not sufficiently provided to the degree I would like in this movie. And again, that's as non-spoilery as I can give it. Overall, I would say definitely go and watch the movie. It's worth going to see simply for the spectacle if you've seen some of the Marvel movies. It's not worth going if you've seen one or two. If you've seen one or two Marvel movies, you can definitely do without this. And also as well, just due to the pacing side of it, it was a bit of a chore to get through. So if you're not a Marvel fan or you have not watched some of the movies, you will really struggle with this film. So that kind of non-spoiler stuff out of the way, I'm going to get into spoilers now. So you have been warned. A lot of people die, right? And I didn't feel like I cared. And that was a real issue with me. Because when these people are dying, they're dying to show that this world now has such relevance and it's going to be so desperate and there's such risk and there's such high stakes at what they're doing. But I didn't care. And I didn't care because I knew that the Infinity Gauntlet could bring them back and that there is a second movie. It just didn't have the weight behind it, which I feel it should have done. And whether that's an issue with me as a audience member or whether it's an issue with the storytelling style, I genuinely don't know. But it's worth pointing out from that side of it that so many people died. I mean, Loki died pretty much straight away, and I just didn't give a crap. We've seen that guy die so many times that his opening death was completely irrelevant. I just did not care at all for his death. Oh, and in terms of who else dies, pretty much everyone. Gamora gets killed by Thanos for throwing her into the Soul Stone area. And that was a good moment in terms of Thanos because it showed that he actually loved something. You had to give up something you love, give a soul that you love for the Soul Stone. And that was good. That was kind of a powerful moment. But again, the fleshing out of Thanos was so bad that the emotionally powerful moments that should have been emotionally powerful weren't really that emotionally powerful. So it was a bit of a shame. The overall kind of story and structure and how it flows, it's not horrendous, but there's just some things which are so missing from it. Like I said, the Russos, I genuinely feel like the Russo brothers and Marvel did the best they could with the story and jumping from character to character. But I feel it really struggled with that. I just don't think it's a good story to adapt in that way. They did a really great job of fleshing out characters and giving enough character screen time. But like I say, from Thanos to the kind of other minor characters, it was just so negligible. Is it worth the 10-year wait? Is it worth this massive build-up? I really don't think so. It's also not really worth what everyone's giving it the praise for, in my opinion, of course. It's just, I left feeling quite deflated from that movie. It just wasn't what it was intended to be or what it was set out to be. The score was fine, the cinematography was fine, the effects, like I say, I was watching some of the effects and they were quite off, they were quite wonky here and there. And it's near unforgivable for the time span they've been working on this movie, especially the effects of Thanos. That's something you could have been working on, completely regardless of anyone else. And when he's grabbing Thor, he grabs Thor at the start, and it's not great. It's that live action CG interaction that just threw me way off. The Black Order were interesting. Peter Dinklage, awesome. What a great cameo. Obviously, Peter Dinklage, famous guy, and he plays a dwarf in this movie. Not the kind of dwarf you'd expect. He's absolutely gigantic, and it's a really good cameo. I liked that. That was really, really good fun. And like I said, there's some really good fun bits of this movie where people are interacting, their quips and stuff, and those moments of levity are good, and it's engaging in terms of the storyline because you're feeling for certain characters because they are interacting in emotionally powerful ways. But then you go to some really drab, slow bits where it should have had some emotional weight behind it, but because things weren't fleshed out properly, I just couldn't give a shit. And that's the real issue. Slow bits in films are fantastic. Great, really churns out, a good, more engaging storyline and things like that. But these moments that should have done that didn't, because I just didn't care for these people. Like, at all. I just didn't care about it. There was just no fleshing out. Thanos' backstory, we don't really know anything about him in this movie. He is the Mad Titan. He warned his planet and a catastrophe happened. Basically, overpopulation. So he was like, yeah, kill everyone. Kill half the populace. That's his motivation. That is literally the motivation. His planet, ate itself into ruin. Not that Celestials did it or anything like that. There's no story about that. So him randomly being potentially insane is kind of almost seems like lazy storytelling. Him as a villain, in terms of his conviction, was great. He genuinely believes what he's doing is the right thing for the universe, and that's good. But without the backstory and him being evolved as a character a little bit more, it does fall short of what it should do. So that's, like I say, it's kind of swings and roundabouts. Thor was fantastic. He was such a good part of this movie. I could have just watched Thor. This could have just been a Thor movie for all I care, and I would have enjoyed it. It would have been really, really good fun. Tom Holland's Spider-Man, great character, great actor. His death, because he dies, is fantastic. It's really, really, really good, and you feel for it as well. The ending of the movie was garbage, absolute garbage. Thanos clicks his fingers, half the universe is decimated, and it ends on a cliffhanger, which they stated it wouldn't end on a cliffhanger, but it does. And that's, I don't know, I understand that they're trying to subvert expectations and things, but when you're lying to people through your teeth, it does, get your back up, and that got my back up a bit, because I just spent, 2 odd hours, over 2 hours, I think, watching this movie. They didn't really go anywhere. Nothing really happened. And there are some tropes in this. The Black Order was good. CGI was a little bit wonky here and there. But those Outriders, those things that you've seen fighting in Wakanda, garbage. Absolute garbage. It just throws back to Age of Ultron and even Avengers, just those mindless villains that, are just cannon fodder. And they just need to stop with that. They could have just had the Black Order, for all I care. Just the Black Order and Thanos, that would have been great. Would have been really, really, really good. So I think that's about it, really. The Hulk-Banner interaction was nothing. It sets up an interesting storyline further down the line, because Hulk gets his ass handed to him by Thanos, really beaten to a pulp. And he's scared of coming out, basically. Hulk never hulks out for the rest of the movie. He's at the start, and then that's it, done. And that sets up an interesting thing for further down the line. But it would have been more interesting if he was separated from Banner. That would have been great. So like I say, that's kind of enough of what I've got to say on this movie. If you've seen it, let me know your thoughts down below. I know this is going to really kind of polarize people, but it is what it is. You can't accuse me of being a Marvel fanboy now. I didn't like Justice League, and I've got issues with Infinity War. So it is what it is. It's just my opinion. You're welcome to yours, I'm welcome to mine, but I do want to hear yours, so drop your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, check out all my other movie reviews, and as always guys, I've been Mr. Until next time, I will catch you in the comment section.